All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really dramatic confrontation in the Gospel of John, chapter 5. And this whole thing, it plays out less like a simple story, and honestly, more like a high-stakes courtroom drama. So, this really is the central question that kicks the whole thing off, right? How can an act of pure mercy, of compassion, suddenly become the trigger for this huge legal and, theological showdown? It's kind of wild when you think about it. Okay, so our story begins at the Pool of Bethesda, and the name, ironically enough, means House of Mercy. It's right here in this House of Mercy that a pretty incredible healing ends up sparking this immediate, intense controversy that basically puts Jesus himself on trial. So really try to picture this. It's the Sabbath, the day of sacred rest. Jesus heals a man who's been sick for 38 years. Now, that alone was enough to raise some eyebrows. But then he tells the guy, hey, pick up your mat and walk. Well, in the eyes of the religious authorities, that's work. It's a clear violation of the law. So this one act of mercy, boom, it's about to set off a huge conflict. But, the anger from the authorities, it just escalates so quickly. We go from 0 to 100. This isn't just about breaking a simple rule anymore. Oh no, this is about something they consider way more serious. We're talking a capital offense. And this is it. This single phrase becomes the prosecution's main charge. See, in their eyes, Jesus isn't just some guy who broke the Sabbath rule. By calling God his own father, he's claiming divine status. So the accusation just skyrockets from like a simple misdemeanor all the way up to blasphemy. And the key to really getting their reaction is this one little Greek word, isos. It means equal. So this was no misunderstanding, not at all. His opponents heard exactly what he was saying, a direct claim to being equal with God. And that is why the whole situation just becomes so incredibly explosive. So Jesus is faced with this absolutely explosive accusation, and he starts his defense. But here's the twist, and it's a big one. He doesn't deny it. He doesn't say, no, you misunderstood. Instead, he leans in and starts explaining his unique divine relationship with the Father. So his whole defense is built on this idea of perfect unity. He basically argues, look, my actions are completely in sync with God the Father. I don't do anything on my own. It's like they're working in perfect harmony. He says he shares the Father's divine work of giving life, that's Zoe, and executing judgment, or krisis. He's not trying to be a rival power, he's a co-worker. Now, just like in any good courtroom drama, Jesus doesn't just rely on his own words. That wouldn't be enough. So he starts calling a series of witnesses to the stand, and he presents what is really a mountain of evidence to back up his claims. And just look at how he builds this case, it's really brilliant. He calls witnesses from every corner of his opponent's world. I mean, you've got a prophet they all respected, his own very public miracles, God's direct testimony, their own sacred scriptures, and even the guy they revered the most, Moses himself. It is an incredibly thorough and comprehensive defense. Okay, so after presenting all this evidence, Jesus lays out the two possible verdicts. And here's the crucial part. The verdict depends entirely on how the jury, and by jury, I mean anyone who's listening to him, responds to his testimony. And this next part, wow, it's one of the most powerful and profound statements in the entire chapter. This isn't just part of his defense anymore. It's a promise of ultimate assurance. It's a verdict that's delivered not, way off in the future, but right here, right now. And to really feel the weight of this promise, we have to go back to that Greek word for judgment, krisis. It doesn't just mean getting the final sentence, like guilty or not guilty. It refers to the entire judicial process, the whole trial. So what Jesus is saying is that a believer gets to bypass the courtroom altogether. It's an immediate transfer of status. You don't even have to show up for the trial. And the grammar here, it's everything. When Jesus says you have passed from death to life, the original Greek verb tense is super specific. It means an action that is already completed with results that are still ongoing. So this isn't about some future hope. He's describing a present-day reality. For anyone who believes, that line has already been crossed. So this ancient trial, it still echoes today for sure, but the focus of the conversation has definitely shifted over time. Back then, the big debate was all about Sabbath laws, ritual purity, and Jesus' divine authority. But if you fast forward to today, interpreters are often focused on what this passage means for our own personal faith, for understanding the nature of Christ, which is what theologians call Christology, and, of course, for that promise of the assurance of salvation. And it's pretty fascinating to see how different traditions find their own unique angles in this story. For example, Catholics often see the Pool of Bethesda as a powerful symbol of baptism. Reformed thinkers, they'll often point right to verse 24 as a cornerstone for assurance of salvation. And the Eastern Orthodox tradition tends to emphasize that synergy, that partnership between God's command and our response. So the core themes are the same: healing, new life, authority. But the applications just keep evolving. All right, so for his closing argument, Jesus ends his defense with this powerful and just deeply ironic challenge. And he aims it squarely at the very people who were the experts in the scriptures that, he says, were all about him in the first place. And this is just the tragic irony at the very heart of the conflict. He points out that they were so focused on the book, on the letters on the page, that they completely missed the person the entire book was pointing to. It's like they were searching for life in the text, but then refusing the very source of life who was standing right there in front of them. And so, the case is presented. The trial and the story concludes. But you know what? The final verdict isn't left back in that ancient courtroom. It's handed to every single person who hears the testimony. Which leaves us with this question, right? In a world that is just full of noise and rules and expectations, which voices are really shaping you more than the voice of the Son?